Can some government regulation prove to be too much? Is it possible that sometimes the government overregulates, which can cause massive costs to industry? In this presentation, I'll show you why we still need government regulation in the life jacket industry, but maybe a different type of regulation. My first argument for regulation is safety. The main reason we need market regulation in life jackets is that they are a water safety device. When you put on a life jacket, you expect it to float and to help save your life when you fall into water. You expect that it will help you keep afloat until help arrives. But what if that wasn't the case? What if the life jacket you relied on didn't keep you afloat and you had to tread in water while you waited for help that may not even come? This is a reality found in the unregulated life jacket market. In life jackets, there are two types of jackets, regulated and unregulated. For regulated jackets, they are tested on the expected wearers depending on weight, specialized for children and adults, so that they can save your lives. They're expected to turn a child over in enough time to ensure that they can survive. The regulated life jackets are also tested for buoyancy on whether they will lift the wearer out of the water to keep them alive until help arrives. If untested, there is no guarantee for safety. Just this weekend, there were several sources warning for people to check their equipment to see if it actually works, because there is an extreme issue with unregulated and regulated life jackets. If people aren't aware that they are wearing unregulated life jackets, they don't know that it could possibly not save them, and it can prove to be fatal to wearers. We need to look for a solution to saving these lives by enforcing the regulation of life jackets. And in order to save lives, we need people to actually wear life jackets. In fact, according to the U.S. Coast Guard, 80% of all boating accident victims drowned. And of those drowning victims, 83% were not wearing a life jacket. In fact, this number has increased over the years due to the popularizing of new sports such as paddleboarding and kayaking. These boaters choose not to wear life jackets because they find them uncomfortable and unfashionable. So they just leave the life jacket on board, which is totally legal. This makes them vulnerable to drowning. For them to even consider wearing life jackets, the jackets would have to be innovated to not only be more comfortable for these boaters, but also make it safe for them to boat by allowing them to move. The only way we can do this is through innovation, and innovation takes time and resources that are expensive. And people in competitive industries such as this usually don't have the profits to afford for innovation because they have other costs when producing the products, such as the certification for the life jackets. This brings me to my next point. The best way to fix this market is to harmonize it. If you were to harmonize the US and the Canadian market, it would break down some of these barriers with costs. The harmonization would require that the certifications on life jacket would be represented on both sides of the border, meaning that there would be less input costs when referring to labeling on the regulated jackets and the certifications per jackets. Currently, there's a separate market for the Canadian life jackets and American life jackets. They are essentially the same jackets with different labels because the standards for the product are different. That means that if you are traveling across Lake Ontario, halfway across, you're legally obligated to change life jackets just because of this law. This makes the Canadian and American industries different and causes a TBT, a technical barrier to trade, which causes producer costs to increase and for them to continue to be separate industries. If we were to harmonize the markets, this would bring the markets together, and it would make it more efficient to make life jackets because there would be less costs due to economies of scale by specializing the life jackets sold in the Canadian-American market, which would lower the average total costs and input into these jackets. This makes it more profitable to mass produce the products, allowing for companies to be able to reinvest in their businesses, to be able to innovate. And the innovation would help save the industry. And that brings me to my final point. Innovation saves lives. The only way to sustain the life jacket industry is to innovate the life jackets. Our life jackets haven't changed in the past 50 years. We are still wearing big cheeses that cannot move much. It's hard to swim in the jackets, let alone do more active sports such as canoeing or paddleboarding that are growing in popularity. Actually, this brings the safety argument for regulation into perspective because of the dangers that come with boating nowadays. For example, paddle boaters are classified as small vessels under the Canadian boating registration, which means that you don't have to wear a life jacket when on the boat, but you have to have one on board. So people can place life jackets on the paddleboard, and that is completely legal. It follows the regulation, but as I said in the beginning, you need to be wearing the life jackets for it actually to save you. And actually, these people in the photo are wearing life jackets, and they're the hopeful innovations we have. For this, we can understand why we need innovation in the market, which can only be if we increase the profits made in the industry by allowing companies to reach economies of scale through the harmonization of the Canadian and American market. This altogether would promote our water safety by increasing our life jackets wear rates and by making us want to wear them while boating through innovation in the industry. But most of all, I want you to take note of this. And next time you go boating or swimming, remember the only way a life jacket can save you is if you're actually wearing a life jacket. And the best way to achieve this is through innovation. Thank you.